Hi, this is Sean Perrin, and you're listening to episode 15 of the Clarineat Podcast. On today's show, I speak with Tim Elvy from Legere Reeds. Legere is a Canadian company located just north of Toronto that makes state-of-the-art synthetic reed products for distribution all around the world. We discuss the history and development of these reeds, some differences and benefits between synthetic products and traditional products, and of course we go over the entire Legere product line, including the different types of cuts and what separates the European signature model from the original signature model, which I know is something a lot of people are wondering about. For today's giveaway, 5 lucky winners will be able to select the clarinet reed of their choice and have it mailed anywhere in the world free of charge. Each prize is worth approximately $40, and if you're interested in having the chance to win any item mentioned on the Clarineat Podcast, this one or any item going forward, please see www.clarineat.com for more information. That's www.clarineat.com. And now, for today's episode with Tim Elvy from Legere Reeds. Thanks so much for taking the time to come on the show, Tim.
No problem, Sean. No problem. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm sure that most listeners are aware of Legere Reeds as a brand, but many may not know that it's actually a Canadian success story, which I'm super happy about because I'm also Canadian. What was the inspiration for starting a synthetic reed business in Canada, and how did it take off to become one of the clarinet world's most recognized brands?
It's actually quite a story. It started back in 1998. It was founded by 2 scientists, Dr. Guy Legere and Dr. Mark Kortschott. Guy approached Mark and had an idea about a reed in order to make a reed out of a unique polymer. In order to make a synthetic reed, you need to have a special material. And that material was up for grabs until Guy approached Mark. It was unknown as to what to use. And Mark, who is a material engineer at U of T, came up with the idea of using polypropylene. Mark, by the way, is one of the few people, I should say, in the world who actually uses and knows this material and works with this material. He understands how to work with this material. But this material was needed because it had to be unique. It has to have the almost identical properties to moist cane. It had to have a really good cane reed has the right combination of high stiffness, but it's very lightweight. That's what makes it such a good material. And in order for us to mimic that, we needed to have a material that would duplicate that. So food-grade polypropylene was chosen, and they started in their garage making a few reeds at a time. Went to a trade show, and then they realized the material worked really well. They got serious about this process and found faster ways to make it and so forth, and the rest is history.
When was this? About 10 years ago, I think?
98.
98. Oh, sorry. So that's almost 20 years now. Wow.
It's been a while. I've been with the company about 7 years now, and it's just amazing, the response.
Do either of the founders play clarinet?
Guy did originally. He's an amateur clarinetist. He was in Brampton Symphony, I believe, and he played, but it wasn't the reed. He didn't like the reeds. He didn't like wood reeds. So
interesting.
He felt that they just were not. They did not work right for him, and his professor, I guess, told him to make a new one. You're an inventor. And he went to it, and him and Mark have been partners ever since. So
it's interesting. Do you know who Daryl Caswell is?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
That's okay. He actually interviewed him on episode 4 of the podcast, I believe. And he is an engineer who also plays horn, and he's sort of adamant about trying to find somewhere to innovate outside of your area of expertise. And he actually invented the world's sharpest reed knife. So
is that right?
Yeah. So I talked to him about that. Very interesting, yeah. And
yeah.
So I talked to him about that, and he sort of got together with an oboe player and with his metallurgical background figured out what to do. And this sounds sort of similar. Someone knew what they were doing and knew where they could apply it and did so.
Yeah, both Guy and Mark hold patents and many other things.
Wow, that's amazing.
And this music patent that they have is the first of that. It's really quite unique. We're changing the way people view music and people play music. It's really something to see.
Absolutely. So I've been using the Legere Reeds for a long time, but I've only ever seen them in the box when they come to me.
Yeah.
As customers, we often only see the end result of a product and none of sort of the steps along the way. So what exactly goes into each reed from when it starts in the manufacturing plant to when it makes it to the customer?
Sure. It's a complicated process in some ways. We have to prepare the plastic. That part of the operation is a trade secret. It's proprietary. but we do need to prepare the plastic. And once that's done, we cut it into blanks that fits into 3-axis CNC machines. We have 4 of them at the time now. Once it's in the CNC machines, the cutters go to work. They cut the reeds, forming the reeds. And then after the CNC machine finishes, the tip is finished, it's pad stamped, and then the reeds are packed for shipping. So it does take a little bit of time to make the reeds. They are a very unique product, and I can't say enough about them as we go along, I'll tell you.
So I guess my next question can't be exactly how they're formed there. But what specific challenges had to be overcome in order to achieve this? I mean, the material becomes so thin at the tip, of course, and I'm surprised that stiffness can be maintained along the length of the reed.
The interesting thing about cane is that all of the molecules are lined up in a vertical fashion. That's what makes it so light yet so strong. So in order for us to do that, we need to mimic that. I will say that. We need to mimic that in order to make it as close to moist cane as we can. And our proprietary process does that. And once we have that plastic, then we can CNC route it, and the CNC can take it down significantly to a very thin tip.
I'm sure many listeners will find this to be an ignorant question on my behalf, but what is it about the moist cane that actually allows it to vibrate more freely? Do you know? And how is that emulated in the plastic?
I'm not sure exactly what difference, to be honest with you, the moist part makes, other than to probably free up the wood or the cane. That's the only thing I can imagine. But with ours, we don't need to do that. We don't need to wet it, as we'll talk about a little later.
Yeah, and we'll get to the advantages in a bit too. But another advantage, they don't become waterlogged, of course.
No.
You know, so all these little things. So we'll get to that in a second here. But
sure.
When you first introduced the reeds to market, what was the reaction from customers and the field?
The first trade show that they went to, they sold out. I think
they
said something. Yeah, I think they said they made 60 reeds in their garage. And I have to say, these two men are brilliant. They really are extremely brilliant. And they went to this first trade show, and they didn't have enough. And from then, it was a very positive reaction. Some of the people said that, you know, it still sounded a bit like plastic. It was a little buzzy. But that was initially, and the signature line has taken care of that. It's a big difference between the classics and the signatures, and it's massive, actually. And that's the biggest change we made. So the positive reaction is really, the most positive reaction has really come within the last 7 years since they developed the signature technology.
Interesting. So it's only become more positive as time's gone on.
Yeah, absolutely. It is interesting that we are, like I said, changing the way people play music. And we get letters from people all the time telling us that, you know, especially people with cane allergies, they tell us that we've changed their lives. They've been able to go back and play music again.
Well, the allergy is an interesting point. I had a student starting a while ago for lessons, and when they first started, the mother sort of read me the list of things she was allergic to, and I all of a sudden, inside me somewhere, started thinking, oh my God, well, this is a big list. What if we put the cane in her mouth and she has some sort of reaction, you know?
Yeah.
And they didn't seem concerned, so we sort of just hoped for the best. But I could see it being a much safer solution.
Yeah, and even it's really interesting. Some professional players, and I'm not sure why this is. I have no reason for it. But some even professional players have developed cane allergies, so we've been able to keep them playing, which is really something.
Interesting. Does the reed, like a normal reed, I think harbors quite a bit of bacteria after a while. Does this have any sort of resistance to that? Can they be washed?
Yes, they're washed. They're really easy to take care of. Actually, they're mold resistant. You can't. You just clean them with regular soap and water, or you can use something like Listerine or even Sтерosol. Any of those products work fine with the reed, and will clean it out of almost all of the bacteria.
Well, I think that's a fantastic benefit because you can clean your mouthpiece, you can clean your ligature, and now you can clean your reed.
Yeah, absolutely, and not have it affect the sound.
But what other advantages are there to using a synthetic reed product from the musician's standpoint?
Well, as I travel around the world, it's quite interesting. I get a lot of people that tell me that they buy a box of reeds and only a few of them work and so forth. With our product, every reed works. So you will never get a dud reed. You will always have a reed that works. You can pull it right out of the box. You don't need to wet it. You just play it. Durability is another factor. It lasts months, not days. So you're going to get, we suggest you'll get about 10 times longer out of a reed. So if you play 2 weeks, you'll play 20 weeks in ours. But the fact is that we're getting 6-7 months out of a reed, a full semester easily. I have an artist, actually, Derek Brown, who's a beatbox artist who beats the living daylights out of our reeds, and he will get 3 months out of one reed.
So what is it that does give it a lifetime? I mean, I'll be honest, I've managed to make these last a lot longer than that.
Yeah. Now they do. I will tell you this. Now that we're talking about this, they do tire out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they will not last forever. I had one guy come to me and tell me he's had one last 8 years, and I listened to it, and I said, yeah, you ought to change that reed, because it just tires out. Like it because it has similar properties to moist cane, it tires out like moist cane. It just gets unresponsive. It just gets kind of dull. It is the material, the way we manufacture the material, that gives you that longevity. Of course, because it is polypropylene, is plastic, you have a natural affinity to durability. But another thing too, that while we're talking about this, is it's really unaffected by weather. So I used to have some customers who are now playing our reeds, who are professional artists who traveled all around the U.S., and they had stashes of wood reeds, stashes of cane reeds, I should say, so that they could have them acclimatized when they ended up playing performances in those areas.
Oh, interesting.
So they'd keep stashes of reeds with their friends or in a locker or someplace, so that when they went there, those reeds would be acclimatized. Artists tell us that, they'll play a reed on the East Coast that is just perfect, a cane reed, and they'll take it out to the West Coast and it won't work. So the same reed. So basically, we take all of that out of the equation. You just take your reed. You don't worry about it anymore. You take it out of your box and you play it. It's unaffected by humidity, and it's unaffected by altitude. And it's because it's not a natural product per se. It's a synthetic product. It's extremely durable that way. But this is something that I always try to tell my customers and listeners, anybody I talk to, that the most important benefit that I have found and that people have told me is that our reeds, they allow musicians to focus on the music and not the reed. Mm-hmm. They're actually playing more music. They're having more fun. They're practicing more. They're becoming better musicians faster. We've had some schools tell us, some teachers tell us that they have found in class after class that when they first put our reeds on the kids' instruments, what happens is the kid will sound better immediately. No squeaking, no squawking. And the young lad or young girl will feel more confident. And, Mr. Smith's not over there. Mr. Smith, my reed won't work. So as a matter of fact, he is playing, or he's teaching more music. The children learn quicker. And you start this kind of a vortex where teachers teaching more music, kids are taking it in and learning faster. And in the end result is you're getting better musicians faster just because of the reed.
Well, and there's even this is an odd point, but from a parental perspective, there's even a time savings because you just pick up two Legere reeds that are going to last you the whole year instead of driving to the store for a new box every 3 weeks,
Yeah, absolutely. We've saved, even though, comparatively our reeds are not inexpensive, you're actually going to save money in the long run.
So what is it from an environmental standpoint? Like, are these reeds recyclable? Are they reducing the amount of cane we need, obviously? What does that lead to?
Sure. Well, I mean, one thing with regards to environmental is we're not taking up massive fields of areas to grow cane. Our raw materials don't take up massive fields. So that's one benefit. And as to whether or not they're recyclable, they are recyclable, but we don't mark the reeds with recycling arrows, because it would compromise the sound of the reed. So unfortunately, most places won't take them. And I will tell you that we use brand new polypropylene for every reed we make. We only use brand new raw material.
Interesting. So it is recyclable, but you can't put it on there.
Yeah, you can't. We really can't put it on there because any kind of engraving or any kind of marking we put on the reed changes the sound. Mm-hmm. So we shy away from that, and we've tried it, and it just it doesn't work for us. So from that end of it, so the biggest environmental benefit is just the fact that we're not. It's like cane is grown on really low, fertile, low-lying land. So, like I say, the biggest environmental benefit is that we don't take up these big fields for our product.
And another question I actually had was, I've often wondered why the letters weren't engraved on the reed, but I think you just answered it there, saying that it would affect the sound.
Yeah, it's a very unique. The properties of our reed are extremely unique, and we just don't put any kind of engraving. We pad stamp them, and that is simply because we don't want to chew into the material and cause problems that way. But basically, no, we don't want to do any engraving because it does really alter the sound.
Well, the new stamping is so much better than the stickers that used to be on there, because the stickers do fall off, but unfortunately the strengths are still a sticker. Is there any thought to try and stamp the strength as well?
We're hoping to. We have you won't believe the number of requests we get for that. So
Yeah.
we are gonna work on that. It's a work in progress. We haven't found something that will do the job for us as of yet, but we're working on that. Yes, that is something we're working on.
So one more question about sort of the materials before we do move on. With 3D printing having come around in the past couple of years, is there any sort of thought to use that to invent a reed with or experiment with?
It's interesting. I worked with a mouthpiece manufacturer who made me some samples with a 3D printer. And the sound was quite good, I have to admit, but it still wasn't the same as having it done with the actual material. So there's really nothing that we could do with a 3D printer that we can't do with the CNC router.
Interesting. So in spite of all these benefits that we've just talked about, some people have remained rather resistant to synthetic reeds. And I personally find this a bit odd because, I mean, even if you insist on using cane normally, we just talked about several advantages where you'd still be better off, and that would expand even to outdoor playing and teaching and doubling. Why do you think some people have trouble trying these products and appreciating them? Is it just sort of a stigma, or what do you say to these people?
I mean, people are what they are. It's a tradition thing, you know. Their father played this. Funny, when we a few years back, we were looking at a campaign. I was looking at a campaign that said "Not your grandfather's reed," but it was we never went with that because a lot of grandfathers play our reed. But you know, people are old-fashioned. They have the tradition. They feel that. Interesting story. I won't tell you the artist's name, but he plays in a well-known European symphony, and he changed to synthetic, and he played in a very, very big. He actually played in the Berlin Philharmonic, and all his friends came up to him and said, "Oh, you know, your sound is bad." They found out he was playing a synthetic. "Oh, your sound, your intonation is not good. This isn't right. That's not right." And he just says, "I can't take it anymore. I'm going back to cane." And then the next performance he had, he didn't go back to cane. He continued to play our Legere Reed, and his friends all came to, "Oh, you know," they said, "Your sound is so much better with the cane reed." Except he had our Legere Reed on, and he turned it to them and he said, "See." Yeah, he's quite a character, actually.
That's hilarious.
But we have stories like that all the time where it's a stigma. People think that you know, they don't want anything synthetic, just simply because it's a tradition. They're old-fashioned, you know. But we're trying to move woodwinds into the future, and you know, some people are just happy with where they are now. So, you know, our reeds are not for everybody, but I would tell you that most people that play them do not go back to cane.
Well, I remember when I've had extensive use using these in the past, actually. And when I was in marching band playing clarinet back in the day, they really sort of saved your life out in the rain and the hot sun. And, you know, you're standing there on the field for 20 minutes and then you got to play.
You know what's kind of cool, Sean, is this is kind of cool, too. We're finding that, like, we do a large business in the U.S. with marching bands. We had 6 of bands that were in the Grand Nationals made it to semifinals, and 2 of those bands made it to finals, which is a really, really big deal. But what we're finding is people are starting our reeds in the low instruments, like the baritone, sax, bass, clarinet, those sorts of things, and then they bring them on into the clarinets for marching, and then they bring them into the concert bands. It's really funny. I've had bandmasters and teachers tell me that they won't use them in concert, and then I come back a year later and they're using them in concert.
And there they are.
Yeah, it's really funny because like they say, well, it's only for marching band, but they just get so fed up with fussing with reeds. They say, well, the sound is great. Why wouldn't we use them? So the teachers are taught. Like the one good thing that I'm finding is the professors, the teachers and the students as well are talking all the time, and word of mouth is getting out there about Legere, and that's helping us greatly.
And there's a certain coolness factor for kids. I mean, they don't really, you just mentioned the whole your grandfather's reed thing. I think sometimes, though, music can seem a bit old-fashioned to kids. And if it gets them excited about an acoustic instrument that they're actually playing with their own body, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it is. And like one thing I forgot to mention, too, that synthetics have really had a bad reputation since the 60s because, quite frankly, they were bad. They were not good. I've seen some original. I even remember there was. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a steel reed.
That sounds cool though.
Yeah, it was actually made out of steel.
Wow.
And it didn't work worth a darn. It was like putting a 2x4 on your mouthpiece, but it was. It just didn't work. But so synthetics have had a bad rep. We think that if the signature had been out in the 60s, I would have changed everything for synthetics even back then.
Interesting. And from a teaching standpoint, too, I was just thinking, it's so nice to just be able to set your clarinet down and instruct for a while and then pick it up again. And if you think about it from a dollar's perspective and a time perspective for the student, like people are paying $1 or more per minute of lesson. And if you have to adjust your reed every time you want to play, in a way, you're wasting their money.
Yeah. I never thought of that. Actually, that's exactly true. Yep, absolutely.
And from a doubling standpoint too, I should have asked Ed Joffe about this. I just talked to him, but he was talking. Do you know who that is?
I do.
Yeah, and he was talking about all these different doubling instruments, and all I could think afterwards, after we got off the chat there, was why didn't I ask him about maintaining reeds for all these? It's such a huge issue, and if you got to pick up an instrument that is only going to get played once all concert, and you've only got 2 bars to switch to it.
Yeah,
it seems like a no-brainer. You got to do it.
We have an artist, John Moses, who's a really good ambassador for us. He plays and he actually opened Wicked on Broadway in New York City, and he's still there. And he's a doubler, obviously, and that's exactly what he said. Just what you said. He picks up. He only has a couple notes to play in a few bars, and he has to pick up the instrument and put the instrument down, go back to his other instrument, and in that short amount of time, his cane reeds are drying out. And this guy John is one of the most well-known session artists on the East Coast. So he finds that our reeds are just absolutely perfect for him, and he's pretty picky. And when you get somebody like the likes of Ricardo Morales playing our reeds full time, there's serious science gone into this product, and it's a good product.
So he switched full time, to these?
Yes, he has. Yes, he has. Yep. He sure has.
Yeah, there's so many interesting sort of concepts that go into this stuff. It's all science.
It is. Yeah, it really is. And I think when people look at our product, they just see a piece of plastic, and it could not be further from the truth. If you knew what went on behind the scenes here, the testing and so forth, and how we research, Guy Legere is now a head of research here, and Mark Kortschott is our president, and the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes, developing, researching, it's incredible. It's just incredible.
So you guys started out with one style of clarinet reeds, and it sounds like the very first ones were kind of handmade in the garage, but then they went to sort of the, I think you had the Ontario, the Quebec, a couple other cuts, and then there was a signature reed, which is now even in 2 different cuts. There's the signature and the brand new European signature. What makes this new line of signature reeds different from the old one?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to do just over audio, but I'll give it a try. So classic cuts, they were the first reeds we made. They're more like a blue box or an orange box. They work. They're kind of a go-to reed for students. It just works. If you can imagine the reed just vibrating vertically. So what we did with the signature series is, like a really good cane reed, we added a spine down the center, a very almost invisible spine. That's from about what you would call maybe the file mark on a cane reed to the tip of the reed. And what that did was allow us to make the ears of the tip very, very thin. So if you can imagine not only a vertical vibration, but kind of a vibration across the tip. And what that does, you can take it, everything I just said, throw it away. What it translates into and boils down to is responsiveness.
Mm-hmm.
So the signature reed is a far more responsive reed than the classic series. The classic series has a little thicker tip, but we don't want to discredit the classic because it's good for people who are just starting out, maybe up to about 2 years of playing. And then after that, we would recommend they switch to signatures. Signatures are now the best-selling reeds we have all over the world.
So that actually explains quite a bit, because when I did get the signatures for the first time, I noticed they almost looked like they had a texture inside the reed or something, and that's what that is.
It up to the light, sorry, Sean. If you hold it up to the light, you can in some cases see it depending on the hardness of the reed.
Interesting.
But it's almost invisible. So like I said, the classic series would be like a workhorse for an entry level, and a signature would be used by someone after they've been playing maybe a couple of years, and they could actually tell the difference between a responsive reed and not. Now, I do have some artists prefer the classic because they like a thicker tip.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, they would go to a classic, and they make that work quite well. But for most cases, they just love the responsiveness of the signature.
So what makes the two types of signature different then? Because there's the original and the new European.
Sure. Well, this is a really cool story. So we have a Japanese customer who, Japan, by the way, is our largest market, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we have a Japanese customer there that was telling us that a lot of professionals were putting soprano saxophone reeds on the clarinets, and he had asked us to just extend a soprano sax reed. But we decided not to do that. We decided to reinvent a new reed based on the saxophone chassis, and it's extremely unique. If you get a chance to look at this reed and compare it to the original signature, it's completely different. It has it's quite a bit wider. It's like about the width of a soprano sax.
That's the first thing I noticed, actually. It's a different shape.
It is. It really is. And if you notice on that reed that the vamp is extremely short,
mm-hmm.
and it has a very pronounced spine. You can see that spine, and it's from where you would say the file mark would normally be, right down to the tip, and it's a very high spine, and what that does is that gives for our listeners, that gives something that's been unattained by most reeds, I believe, especially ours. It's been unattained. We are able to get extremely high register stability. I don't know if you noticed that, Sean. When I was at the TMEA, I had about 150 people through the days that I would put our normal signature, our original signature on, which is a great reed. There's zero wrong. I mean, it's a great reed. And everyone, to a student or a professor, could get 5 notes above the highest note they could attain with our original signature. It was really something to see.
Interesting.
Out of all those people, they literally walked up that scale, 5 notes.
Well, yeah, I found that I got a few. You guys sent me a couple to try here. They were actually a bit soft for me, so we're in kind of talks to try a couple harder ones just to see.
Sure.
But I did find, I was like, wow, this is something about that wider fit or something really, really worked on the mouthpiece that I have. So, but
what mouthpiece do you have, if you don't mind me asking?
Right now, I'm between a few different mouthpieces.
Yeah.
One of them is the Van Doren Diamond, Black Diamond.
Yep.
And I'm trying a new one. It's unreleased right now from D'Addario called the X25E.
Cool.
Which is
How about the fit on those mouthpieces? Sorry.
It seems good. Yeah, it seems to be fine. I should try it on my M15 too. I don't know how that would fit on there. But I think that the Black Diamond seems to have a slightly wider tip rail or something. So
interesting.
Yeah, I have to check the specs. I'm not really a spec geek like that, but But yeah, it works really well. I recently changed my philosophy. I used to like to use a very hard reed on a very closed mouthpiece. But I don't know, I got tired of working so hard just to get a sound. And I also started playing a little more jazz and stuff. So I've since gone to a more open setup with a little bit softer reed. And it's working for now, but
I was talking to a couple people, and it seems like the thought of school of thought, I should say, has changed somewhat on that. It used to be the harder the reed, the better you were. Now it's more like a matching of the reed to the mouthpiece.
Yeah, totally.
And I think makes a big difference.
When I was in school, I remember, I mean, people were trying to race up to get to like a 4 or even a 5 to kind of sort of impress their friends or whatever. And
yeah, I've seen that before.
You know, and I look back
some of that out there.
Yeah, I look back, it's so stupid. But I used to joke and tell students too, you know, that you come in and they're like, "Oh, I'm on a 3," and then what strength are you on? And I tell them it's a 10. And just joking, obviously, but it's one of those steel reeds, you know.
Gerald Albright plays a number 10 opening with about a 1.5 reed. I have no idea how he can control that.
Wow,
it's amazing.
It's unbelievable. Art. It's like using a sheet of paper.
It really is. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard him play, but he's a premier artist.
Well, I'll listen with fresh ears knowing that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So one more thing. This isn't entirely relevant to the clarinet players, and I was debating whether or not I should ask this, but I think it still is interesting, and I hope you can give some insight into it. Légere, I believe, invented the world's first double reed, and you guys now make bassoon and oboe reeds too. Is that correct?
Yeah, and they're symphonic quality. I say that with you really need to try these reeds. Same with our signature series. You need to try them to believe them. The response is, I mean, we're just now releasing the oboe reed, and the response, we already have many artists using it in the symphony.
Wow.
Christoph Hartmann uses it full time now. Paul Hansen, who has been worked with Bela Fleck and the Flecktones. He's a jazz bassoonist, and he uses our reed full time, and he beats the living daylights out. He gets a year out of a reed, 1 year.
Wow!
So you can imagine the amount of music you can play, especially for a double reader, who's having to work on his reeds, make reeds, scrape reeds. This isn't working. You can imagine it's double the trouble that a single reed is, and we just take all that out of the equation. And not only do we take it out of the equation, but it's symphonic sound.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's good enough to play in the symphony. So again, your listeners, if they have any doubt, they need to try them. The doubt will be gone. I can guarantee you that.
So speaking of the doubt, I mean, one concern I have, even now as I got these to try, I was unsure about which strength to pick, and it seems like even within the ranges, like they're just slightly different sometimes. And I think these bassoon reeds are almost $140 or something like that.
They are.
That's quite a commitment. So what's your guys' policy on trying to figure out how the person can get the best reed for them, and what if it doesn't work?
Well, oftentimes with regards to the bassoon and the oboe, we don't have an exchange policy for that. But if for some reason the reed isn't playable, or at any rate, the bottom line is we want our customers to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So on a case-by-case basis, we would look at things. But with the single reeds now, we're the only company in the world that actually has a reed, an exchange program. So basically what your listeners would do is go on our website and go to the RMA form. It needs to be within 30 days, and you need to have a receipt. You need to upload the receipt. And basically then you send it back mail, and we will send you a brand new reed of a different strength at no charge.
Interesting. That's great.
Yeah, so we're the only guys that do that, only company that does that. And the amount of goodwill that generates is incredible. And to be frank, we don't do that many exchanges.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think another thing too that people maybe should do, and I do this actually, is I'll buy several in kind of a gradient, because some days you want a slightly harder reed or slightly softer anyways. And if you
that's a great.
Yeah, if you normally play a 3.5, buy a 3 1/4, a 3.5, and a 3.5 plus, and you're kind of set, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And also another thing maybe your listeners would be interested in, if they do buy 3 like that, they can rotate them. They can get a much longer life even out of the reeds if they rest the reeds, just like they would a real cane reed.
Interesting. Yeah, I've actually done that before. I used to have a reed case just full of these, and I would just kind of go through them. I think that's how I made them last so long, actually. So there's a couple listener questions here.
Sure.
Actually, I just answered the first one there. I read it a little out of order, if that's okay.
No, that's fine.
The second one is, what do synthetic reed fans have to look forward to next? I mean, you guys have done a great job of the single reed for saxophone and clarinet and bassoon and oboe, and is that all the terrain you're hoping to cover, or is there more?
Well, we hope to have at some point the oboe reed right now is a European scrape at this particular time. It's what most of the world plays, but there is also a American scrape that we're going to develop at some point because there's a market for that. Bassoon reed's finished now. The European scrape oboe is finished now. We're hoping to maybe have some new sax cuts in 2017. It takes a while to develop things, so we want to make sure that when we send it out to the listeners that it's perfect.
Someone also asked, what can they do as far as adjustments on the reed, or does that void the warranty, or what's the situation with that?
Yeah, it would void the warranty. We do have just so your listeners know, we do have quarter strength, so almost everybody should be able to hone in on their strength. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be a problem. That's a big deal, a quarter strength. No one else does that. Now, that being said, if you do want to work on the reed, we don't recommend it, but you have to be extremely careful. You can fray the edges of the reed very easily, and it's useless after that. Mauro from Reed Geek, I don't know if you know that company, Reed Geek.
Yeah, I've got one of those actually.
Yeah, they have a new one. They have a new titanium coat that Mauro developed in conjunction with our reeds to basically allow people to work on them, and it's extremely sharp, and that makes a big difference. And I've watched him work on our reeds with little or no damage. But again, we don't recommend that because that's why we have the quarter strengths, because we really don't want people adjusting them. It will void your warranty too if you do. But and we'll get you, like I say, with the exchange policy, we'll get you the right strength. We'll work with you.
Long story short, it's possible but not recommended, and it voids the warranty.
Yes, it absolutely does. So, and there's not a lot of adjustments really that can be made on our reeds. Like they come out fairly consistent, and especially we pride ourselves in our reeds being very flat. And so from a flatness aspect, it's very rare that you would get something that you'd need to shave the bottom on.
Well, exactly, and that's what I was going to say. Is a lot of the reasons for continuing to adjust cane reeds are due to the cane warping or other issues, And if you don't have that, you don't really need to maybe adjust it.
No, we always tell people we just want you to play music. Go play music.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people are interested in learning more about you and your products, how can they find you online? You have a website, but is there a Twitter, Facebook page, etc.?
Yep, absolutely. You can go on our website and see the Twitter page, the Facebook page. We have a newsletter. It'd be great if your listeners would subscribe to that. You'll find the latest news in the newsletter, and we'll post it on Facebook and our website as it comes up as well. So they can contact also customer service. There's a info form if you want to fill it out if you have a question or you want to contact me or contact Julie, our customer service girl. There's lots of ways to get a hold of us, and we pride ourselves in getting back to people. So it may take a couple days, but we'll get back to you.
So, Tim, Legere has been extremely generous with today's giveaway on the podcast, and 5 listeners are going to get a chance to win the new European signature reed, or I think you said any cut that they would like. Would you explain a little more about that?
Sure, absolutely. You can have whatever cut you like, but we would love to send you the new European if you're already playing our signature, or if you're not playing our signature. I'd love for your listeners to try that. We're going to give away 5 reeds. Sean will draw, and the listeners will be sent to me and my customer service girl, Julie, and we'll give you some personal service and make sure you get the right strength. You can help us to choose you the right strength.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And just so listeners are aware, please remember that it's not enough anymore to just like on the Facebook page. You have to subscribe to the email list at clarineat.com. Just go over on the right there in the sidebar, enter your email address, and that'll give you access also to the monthly Clarineat newsletter, where you'll see the featured episodes for the month. You'll get a monthly exclusive discount code and some other special offers and information on there. So do sign up for that, and that'll give you access not only to be entered in this draw, but any other draw in future episodes. Thanks so much for taking the time to come on today, Tim. Is there something you wanted to add before we wrap up for this episode?
Yeah, I'd like to thank those of your listeners who are already playing our reeds. I'd like to thank them for their support. It means a lot to us. We're succeeding because you're succeeding. And I'd also like to invite those that haven't tried our reeds to try them. The bottom line is that we want you to be a happy customer, and we want to give you a freedom to perform that you've never had before. So we'd like to invite you to try them, and if I can be of assistance, please feel free to email me.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on the show today, Tim. It was just great to talk to you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was great.
If you find that you're enjoying the podcast, please consider sharing it with your friends, colleagues, students, and family. If you have any feedback regarding the show, ideas for future episodes, or questions for upcoming guests, please do not hesitate to get in touch. You can do this by emailing feedback@clarineat.com. That's feedback@clarineat.com. To be eligible to win items mentioned on the show, be sure to sign up for the Clarineat newsletter. Winners will be randomly drawn each month from the list of subscribers. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.